Thank you, and thanks for all your work and presentation. It's always an interesting topic. So, yeah, my input is just I'm hoping there's more focus with the RDN on just more than conservation. So, in some areas, current residents are being asked to use less, but that saved water is simply going to new development, so it's not really conservation. And then the new development pipes more water from their land in storm sewers to discharge in the ocean, so the land tends to get dried up. And then the other focus is to support more tree canopies that provide shade so the water doesn't evaporate much, to promote the on-site drainage, that sort of thing. So that's what I'm hoping is there's a little more accent on doing just more than conserving where current residents are sacrificing, but it's a way of really protecting and enhancing the water sort of thing is important. So, but I appreciate all the work. It's great monitoring all these wells. And the other thing is with water standards, if you're lowering, the liters per day that a developer must prove he has for each unit, if you're lowering those standards to less liters per day being required per unit, well, those water standards, they're a cushion. So for example, if it's 2,000 liters per day that's required per unit, that's not as much cushion as, say, 2,400 liters per day or whatever the figure is. So if we're facing hotter and hotter summers, drier seasons, and so on, that cushion allows residents to still be water secure. And that's another worry I have. If the standards are too low, you're really reducing that cushion. So in a crisis where it really becomes a problem, there's not much leeway for residents to reduce that much more. So those are things I'm hoping to be focused on. And then the watershed areas and aquifer areas, it would be great to have a policy to see them more protected with green space, which, is proven to recharge the aquifers better than just bare land and so on. So yeah, but thanks very much for your presentation. Appreciate it.
Okay, I guess you get me last. So, yeah, I don't really have too many questions or maybe more of a comment, if anything. The reason why, I asked you to come here this evening was to give council just an overview, which you've done quite well, and I appreciate that. And the intent here is I think this is the start of council now becoming keenly aware of the stresses that are on our aquifers in Lantzville. And I think every year that goes by now, we're going to have more and more evidence of the stress on our aquifers. And one suggestion we've already heard tonight is, looking at increasing water storage capacity, and dealing with it. So that's, reservoirs. That's something we have to do as a municipality to plan for what's ahead of us. Because I don't think we're going to be reversing this trend. I think it looks like the science is pointing in one direction, and I'm seeing the nods that we're going to be getting drier and drier, and there's going to be continual strain, and we have other evidence of that as well. So, I think the biggest thing this council, and probably the next council, is going to have to look at doing is doing a new water master plan. That's how you bring this information into all of it and tie everything together. That's how it's done. So we have one plan. I think we adopted in 2017. Probably already out of date. Things are already changing. Goals of the community are changing. But also in that time period, there's been significant changes in the droughts and so on over the last number of years. So. Yeah, so I guess is that maybe through to our presenter, are there recommendations that municipalities should be doing regular updates on their water master planning documents? Like, is there a general recommendation from the Drinking Water Watershed Protection Program?
That's a good question. I think not necessarily from our program do we have a general kind of recommendation for updates, but I do think that the province has some recommendations about how often communities update those plans. And from sort of a climate-informed water supply planning perspective, I think it is quite important to update those plans on a regular basis to incorporate new science as it comes out, new trends in monitoring, and also to overlay those plans with a good understanding of what sort of development is happening in your community, where you're seeing, proposed areas for densification, and technical studies that can show kind of, areas where it's worthwhile to protect aquifer recharge zones and those upland areas, where they can be critical for that recharge of those aquifers. So there's a lot that can go into that, but certainly, and part of the work we do in the Drinking Water and Watershed Protection Program is support member municipalities through developing those plans. So if that's something that comes up here through the District of Lantzville, we can certainly sit at the table with that and provide sort of from an advisory perspective some considerations to be included in that. So, yeah.
Okay, and I did have one last question, and hopefully I can get it right. With respect to individual wells, in Lantzville, like they have licenses, and we have the licenses essentially govern how much we can extract from the ground. Do you actually look at that data and compare it to the or tie that into the overall analysis, or like, are we over extracting? Are we extracting just enough? Are we being conservative and leaving extra in the ground? Do you guys look at those?
We haven't looked at that for this part of the region, but through sort of this multi-year, multi-phased water budget study that we've done, some of that work has been teased out in other areas of the region. So really looking at water licenses, the whole conglomeration of different wells, the types of water use that's happening. So even overlaying models around, in agricultural areas, what are people growing? So how much water are they likely extracting? So we have done some of those studies in certain parts of the region. I say it's multi-year and multi-phase because this process started back in 2013 with the first kind of regional scale water budget study. So the areas around Lantzville are certainly included in that. The second phase was really part of this volunteer monitoring well expansion to fill gaps where that study really saw that there was areas with high potential stress and needed further investigation. And we're now in the third phase of that, where we're looking at some key areas that were recommended for further study and overlaying things like water use with also some projections around climate change, and then working with planning departments looking at projections around growth as well to build a model to say, this is how things are looking now, but this is potentially how they could look in the future as well. So the report sort of in front of you today is sort of almost the raw data that can feed in to those further technical studies that can really help to guide planning decisions in that way. Yeah.
Great, thank you for your comments. Again, really appreciate you coming in this evening, and hopefully it's not too hot in here for you. But anyways, I really appreciate it, and look forward to probably next year as well.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. All right, so that takes us on to the consent agenda. Through to council, any items being requested to be removed? Okay, hearing nothing, I'll move that the items listed in the consent agenda from 5A to 5E be approved. Is there a seconder? Second by Councillor Jones. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. On to public input. So persons recognized by the chair to speak must first state their name and address for the record, may speak once for up to 2 minutes unless council resolves otherwise, and are limited to providing comment regarding items listed on this evening's agenda. Comments must be directed to the chair and must not be directed to individual council members, staff, or the audience, and must not include personnel issues. And no booing or clapping. Anybody in the gallery wishing to speak this evening? And remotely registered, is that even possible, or?
It is, everything's online now.
Okay, nobody wants to do it remotely, all right. So moving on then, we're on to legislative matters. So we have, under 8A, we have the road closure for Ware Road and the Highways 19 parcels. So Director Robinson, you're gonna be doing a presentation for us.
Yes, sir, I have a short presentation and I'm happy to take any questions.
Great, thank you.
start the show. Oh, is this the right one? Too many presentations for tonight. Let's get the right one going. There we go. Ready when you are. Oh, okay. Well, the people online can, the people online can see it? Wonderful. Well, I'll walk members of council through it. You can follow through in your agenda package. I'll refer the attachments as we go through. Oh, you have paper copies of the presentation, I believe, as well, for your reference. Tonight, we're talking about a very exciting road closure bylaw at the intersection of Ware Road and Highway 19. So to give the public a bit of background, this is also found in the council report where we go into quite a bit of detail and reference the applicable legislation as well. The land was dedicated as Highway in 1984 as part of the whole Island Highway Corridor project that was being developed at that time. When Lantzville became a municipality, we assumed the ability, title to highways within the municipality vests in the municipality in accordance with the community charter. Therefore, in 2003, these lands technically became Lantzville right-of-ways. They're not arterial highways, so the province has expressed that they are not actually interested in these properties and they do not own them. So they are up to Lantzville to decide to close, and we can then, once we pass a road closure bylaw, raise title to these properties as separate parcels of land. The location map that you see on slide 3 here just shows where these, it's all in our mapping and in the survey system as one parcel, although it doesn't have a parcel identifier because it's not a titled parcel, it's an open portion of right-of-way. It's a very strange legal loophole that, that we are hoping to close and create land parcels out of. We've engaged the surveyor to actually survey all of these parcels, which is a required step in the road closure bylaw to actually get a survey done and create parts or areas of the survey plan to then close and raise title to, because when you're creating a title document, you need to reference a survey plan. This survey plan, EPP 153774, shows the 3 parcels on the south side of the highway intersection. There's part 1 that is adjacent to the existing Lantzville Industrial Park along Industrial Road there. Part 2 is between Industrial and Ware Roads. And then part 3 is actually on the east side of Ware Road there, just north of Clark Drive West. There's a very small sliver of land on the northeast corner of the Highway 19 and Ware Road intersection that's shown as Area 4 on the survey plan, and that's on slide 5. There's actually another parcel, sorry, I spoke incorrectly. There's 4 of them are actually south of the highway, 2 of them are north of the highway. The plan on slide 6 shows Area 5, which is immediately adjacent to the parcel that the municipality owns on Clark Drive West. and it's right at the intersection of Ware and Clark Drive West. And parcel 6 is on the northwest corner of the Ware and Highway 19 intersection. It actually immediately abuts the Harvey Road Wellfield location. The road closure bylaw, I realize this council has not done a road closure bylaw, so I wanted to provide some additional information and context for council's benefit. Tonight you have first and second reading on the agenda. After second reading, the bylaw is required to be sent to the Ministry of Transportation for approval, as it is immediately adjacent to an arterial highway. Then we have to publish a public notice of third reading of the bylaw, and then provide the public an opportunity to speak to the bylaw at third reading. It's not like a public hearing similar to zoning or an OCP amendment bylaw, but we do have to provide public notice and provide the public with an opportunity to speak at third reading. After third reading, the standard one clear day rule applies to adoption of the bylaw. Following adoption of the bylaw, the district has the ability to raise title to each of these parcels. And then a planning process would be required to determine future use if council wishes to rezone these parcels for specific purposes, dispose of the parcels, retain them for a specific use or whatever. That would essentially need to be conducted at, once they become legal parcels, we can adjust the zoning of them because council has zoning authority as well. Staff's recommendation, after working with the surveyor and working with legal, we've prepared the bylaw and the surveys and everything is ready to go. We recommend first and second reading of the road closure bylaw tonight. I'm happy to answer any questions the council has.
Great. Thank you for your presentation, Councillor Jones, and then Councillor Savage.
Yes, a couple quick questions. The first one, if you could just give the acreage, hectares and acres of the total, please?
They are actually indicated on each of the surveys that are attached in your agenda package. Let me just grab mine.
Yes, a magnifying glass I don't have.
My
It
apologies.
was something like 14 acres, if I recall.
The surveyors are not known for their brevity. So if you refer to attachment 3, which is survey plan EPP 153774, which shows parts 1, 2, and 3. Part 1 is 1.89 hectares. Part 2 is 1.43 hectares. And part 3 is 0.8 hectares. So you'll see, if you're looking at the survey, right under where the number is in the middle of the parcel, there's a little area amount you can zoom in on. If you have, especially, it's easier if you have an electronic version.
Yep, thank you. So the total acreage?
The total hectares.
Hectares?
I actually don't think I have that calculated out on the different parcels. Let me just see if I can grab that on a different screen here.
Sounds like it's around 6 or 7 hectares or 5 hectares.
So we've got yeah, on that survey alone, you're looking at about 4.5 hectares, and then it's 1.5, so 1.5.1. The parcel on part 5 is 0.82 hectares, so that's probably puts you at 7 hectares. And then the parcel immediately adjacent to the well field is the largest parcel at 2.12 hectares. So it's approximately 9 hectares in total.
Wow, okay, I just wanted to get that out there so we can all understand. We're looking at about 9 hectares or a little over 22 acres or something like that of land, which is now going to officially be District of Lantzville property. It's fantastic news. My next question is, does the province have any legal recourse after the title goes to Lantzville with respect to the future use of these properties?
Zoning bylaw amendments, through your worship to the councillor. Zoning bylaw amendments within a proximity to an arterial highway require Ministry of Transportation approval. But generally, as long as we're not doing anything that would interfere with the normal business of that arterial highway, Ministry approval is generally easy to accommodate.
Thank you. So nothing beyond the usual, no conditions and no strings will be attached at the time.
Retains their authority of expropriation, so if they did decide that they wanted these parcels in the future, they could choose to
Yeah.
expropriate them from us. But
Sure.
yeah,
Yeah, they
you're
can have
correct,
Lantzville
Councillor.
also, I suppose. Thank you.
Councillor Savage?
Yes, it certainly is exciting news, Director Rhodes. And first question, please. If, as you've already been in discussion with the Ministry of Highways, what would your guess be as to how long the approval might take from Highways so that third reading can be brought back to Council?
I am hopeful that we may be able to bring it for the September 9th meeting, as I know that's the last meeting of this council. However, we are getting into August, lots of vacations at different ministries that have to deal with this type of thing. Generally, what's been advised to me in the past is it's a 3 to 6 month approval window for bylaws in relation to arterial highways. Sometimes it's faster, sometimes it's longer, depending on the complexity. We have already been in communication with land agents at the ministry, and they have confirmed that this is definitely Lantzville land for the road closure purposes. But the best that I can estimate is between 3 and 6 months, because that's generally what they advise us.
Yeah, great. Okay, that's good and quick. Excellent. And you'd mentioned, just wanted to assure this, so the first step is to create distinct legal parcels. And then the second step is to approve road closure bylaw number 435. And then the third step, which could follow right on the heels of that, would be the rezoning of the properties.
Yeah, so first we got to pass the road closure bylaw, then we raise title, and then we can do a rezoning amendment. That's correct, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, though. So the title's the middle one there. Okay. And so part of this public process is what we're doing now. That's to go public and to get feedback from various parties who might feel they're effective. And does this public process also include what these lands might be used for? So for example, the land adjacent to our well fields might stay as parkland, green space to protect it. The lands adjacent to the industrial park might be for industrial park expansion and so on. Is that a consideration now for public input, or just the fact we're closing the roads?
Through your worship to the councillor, what the charter really requires us to talk about is the road closure itself and how that would impact property owners. The future planning process would follow the road closure bylaw, so we don't really need to get into the details of the future use of these lands until after we've raised title to them.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, that's terrific. Thank you very much. I wish you good luck with it, and hopefully we'll get the bylaw back in September. We shall see. Thank you.
Councillor Mandel?
Just wondering, is there like a default zoning that it will go to right away as a result of when we sort of take ownership of it? Just wondering what that might be.
Yeah, it's through your worship to the councillor, it would retain its existing zoning, which is T for transportation lands. So until this or a future council amends the zoning bylaw to redesignate the future parcels for a separate zone, it'll just retain the T zoning.
Thank you.
Okay. For myself, I just want to thank all the work staff's done on this. This is one of these things that's happened kind of by accident, as staff knows, and is kind of was just a query around, as land that, maybe the municipality could look at purchasing or what have you. And, little did we know, for 23 years, we've been sitting on over 20 acres that belong to the municipality all the way along. This is a significant game changer for the district of Lantzville. There's lots of possibilities that are going to come out of this, and especially for future tax implications and so forth. I'm not going to get ahead of myself on this, but it's going to be a multi-year process, no doubt about it, but as we move forward on this, but again, this is great news for the district of Lantzville, and it's just one of these things that just kind of fluked upon, and but again, I really appreciate all the work staff has done and bringing this forward and where we're at now, and again, it's gonna mean a great deal to the district of Lantzville and its ratepayers, as there could be significant, future tax income in perpetuity, for Lantzville. So this is a great win. Yeah, so that's all I got to say for now. Any further questions through to Director Robinson? Okay, hearing nothing, I'll just get the first reading on the floor. That District of Lantzville Road Closure Bylaw number 435/2026 be given first reading. Seconded by Councillor Savage. I'll move to call in the question. All those in favor and opposed, that's carried unanimously. And the second reading, that District of Lantzville Road Closure Bylaw number 435/2026 be given second reading. Is there a seconder? Second by Councillor Jones. Discussion.
Nothing for me. It's very simple. Road closure. We got busy agenda, so I'm happy to move on.
Yeah, and as the presentation, this is just one step of many over the next while anyways, and yeah, it's excellent. So anything further from council? Councillor Savage?
Yes, the topic tonight is the road closure, not what we might eventually do with the land, but I agree, Mayor Swain, that this is a reward, I think, for council's diligence with all our budgets. I think this fell out of the sky as a reward for us, because it certainly could end up as a very pretty picture for Lantzville in terms of future income, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really, it really is exciting news. I agree with Director Robinson. So I'll certainly be approving it, and we'll see where it goes from here.
Okay, any additional comments? Yeah, so again, there's gonna be many steps down the road, many, probably even the development of an economic land development corporation for the district of Lantzville, but there'll be many firsts that come out of this, and will be excellent. So I'll leave it there. I'll call the question. All those in favor and opposed, that's carried unanimously. That takes us on to 8B. So we have development permit or variance permit for 6620 David Place. Director Robinson, we have another presentation. Councillor Jones, yeah.
Yes, I'll be recusing myself from this, so I'm not sure if I need to go now, but because I have a working relationship with one of the applicants.
Yeah, you'd be leaving now. Yeah, shouldn't be
I will leave
involved.
now.
Okay. Whenever you're ready, Director Robinson.
Good afternoon, Your Worship, members of council. If you, I believe the slide deck is on the live stream, but you can follow along the paper copy in front of you here. We have the development variance permit for 6620 David Place on the agenda right now. The applicant has applied for a variance to section 1.1.6 of the district zoning bylaw to decrease the minimum parcel frontage from 20 to 7 meters. Oh, there we go. It's on the screen. For a proposed subdivision, the existing property prior to the subdivision has 37.6 meters of frontage along David Place. The location map is on slide 3 there for you. It shows the parcel fronting on the cul-de-sac on David Place. The site plan that prepared is also in your agenda. The red arrows there show the frontage on the new proposed parcel that would have the existing house, and then the new parcel to the south of that, the proposed lot would have the remainder of that frontage along it, and the survey kind of shows where the proposed lot lines are. Staff have reviewed the request and put out notice to the neighbors in line with required procedures, and are ready to recommend that the development variance permit for 6620 David Place to vary the section 1.16 of the zoning bylaw be approved. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, through your council, any questions for Director Robinson?
Am I able to say a few words, please?
You property owner? Yes. We also have the property
Yeah,
owner
so,
surveyor
if
on
the
the
property
line.
owner wants to come to the microphone, and then just name and address for the record, and
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you. So my name is Katrina Barnes, property owner at 6620 David Place. To give you a little bit of background here, my husband and I moved to Lantzville 5 years ago, and we purchased what I call a little piece of paradise. So we were the proud homeowners of a beautiful home on 1.75 acres. Over the course of those last 5 years, we have worked and played in the Lantzville area and absolutely love our lives here and could never imagine leaving. But we've also learned during that time that 1 3/4 acres takes a lot of work to maintain as it deserves. Over time, we had the idea to look at a smaller piece of paradise, hence the idea of subdividing the property with the intent to build a new, smaller home on the new half-acre lot that would be taken and leaving the remaining home on the 1.25 acres that would be left. Through this process and working through it, we've found that we check the boxes on the vast majority of the criteria that are required. We have the unanimous approval of the Strata Council for the proposed connection to the septic system. We have the zoning in place for half-acre residential R1, and we also have the support of the direct neighbor that would be impacted by the new driveway that would be going in to access the existing house. Understanding that this is a cul-de-sac and a pie-shaped lot, so therefore we have that smaller frontage on the front relative to the overall size of the lot. And working with staff here in Lantzville, as well as with Tyler Hansen, the recommendation from staff has been to keep the property or proposed property as square as possible with those straight linear lines. And hence that would mean that we would have that smaller frontage of 7 meters on the what would be new 1.25 acre lot. There is also precedent in our neighborhood. If you look just 3 doors down the road on Ald's Road, there is a panhandle lot with a smaller driveway leading to the resulting subdivided lot there. So in conclusion, I'm requesting approval from Mayor and Council for this development variance permit, please, and would also like to pass on my thanks to staff for their guidance and support through the project. Thank you.
okay. Thank you for your presentation, and through the council, any questions for either presenter? Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Councilor Mundell, and then we'll see who has to go back to the microphone.
Question, I think probably through to Director Robinson. This is a strata lot, correct? And as a result, I'm not going to pretend to be an expert in all things strata, but because it is a strata and because there's a shared septic system, I see that we've heard from one neighbor. I'm just wondering what the requirements are, or if there are further requirements for all the neighbors in the strata to weigh in on and give their feedback and agreement or support. Because again, this is a change to the strata plan, and because there is a shared, I believe, septic system.
Yeah, through your worship to the councillor, we have received a motion from the Strata AGM with universal support for creation of the new lot. The applicant's surveyor is actually also on the line, and so perhaps, Tyler, can you speak a little bit to the strata property process?
Thank you, and through your worship to the councillor. Yes, the strata, because the unit entitlements are changing for the existing strata lot owners, the strata board had to approve the redivision of the strata lot into 2 strata lots. And that was step 1 for Spencer and Katrina, was to get that through a motion at the AGM there, and as well as connection to the community sewer system.
Okay, if I follow up, go ahead.
Sure. And just a follow up to that is around the septic system there. We've heard from other neighbors about different along a different application or that the septic system there is dated and potentially in need of updating or repair and whatnot, and just maybe considering the addition of more properties to that system. Was that factored in or studied and approved by a professional in that field?
Through your worship to the councillor, I am not directly involved with that portion. Katrina and might be able to answer that question better. But what I do know is that the strata board and at the AGM did note that there was additional capacity within the system, but I don't know if there was any discussions about the age of the system. I do know that it is an older system. I believe the strata plan was registered in the 1990s, so we're talking about 30 plus years. But yeah, I don't know any more on the life of the system. That would definitely be something that would fall under the strata's reserve fund as far as long-term maintenance and replacement of the system. But that would be a question either to the strata board or maybe Ms. Barnes knows better.
Well, I think I'm reluctant to go down the sewer path because it's irrelevant to the development variance permit that's being requested. So I don't know how necessary Councillor Mundell needs this information, but it's not really related to the development variance permit itself. So I would really, this is about the frontage of the lot. And unless Director Robinson wants to correct me.
Sorry for pressing that button, sir. Yes, Your Worship, it does relate to the frontage. What I can share is that we were, with my approval officer hat on, I was sent the Strata AGM meeting minutes, and they confirmed that they do have sewer capacity for the site.
Any additional questions, Councilor Mundell? Okay, through the rest of the council, questions? Okay, hearing nothing, we'll get the motion on the floor. So I'll just make the motion that council approve the development variance permit number DVP 26-03 for 6620 David Place to vary section 1.1.6 of the District of Lantzville zoning bylaw number 180/2020 to decrease the minimum parcel frontage and width from 20 meters to 7 meters for the existing lot in a proposed subdivision. Is there a seconder to that? Second by Councillor Savage, and then for discussion, I'll just kind of quickly lead into it. Yeah, to me, I know council in the past moved away from the approval of, the panhandle type lots. And I know they are in existence around Lantzville and so forth, and I think that's why we are having this discussion tonight as to whether or not to grant that, and really what it comes down to is it going to impact others. We have one piece of received correspondence from the neighbor, and I can't remember what the radius is, if it's 50 meters, 60 meters. 60 meters? Okay. So in a larger lot subdivision, that's not going to reach too many people, but the fact that it's gone to a strata meeting and regarding this the septic side of things or the sewage, there doesn't seem to be any opposition to this whatsoever. In fact, I think the letter received is an endorsement. So yeah, all good as it says in there. Other than that, yeah, I'm in support of it. So Councillor Savage is the seconder if you wish, and then the rest of the council.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I'll be supporting this. The first reason is it's got the approval of the Strata Council representing the whole Woodacre Strata. The second is that the neighbor supports it. My third reason is that I don't consider this a panhandle. For me, a panhandle is one where you've got a thin driveway and the whole lot is behind the house. And from all my real estate tours over the years, I've noticed in neighborhoods that can be quite onerous to neighbors who are used to an empty backyard, but I don't consider that this at all. It's to me, it's simply splitting the lot in two. They both have, frontages there. And then the fourth reason, to me, it's a reasonable request, as this is 1 3/4 acres. And throughout this strata lots, there's a whole variety of lot sizes that, so I think this is right in keeping with it. And they're both still generous big lots, so I'll certainly be supporting it. Seems reasonable to me. Thank you.
Okay, additional speakers, Councillor Mundell.
Sorry, I didn't ask this sooner, and I know you said this, but can you just remind me what the subdivided size will be of the subdivided parcel? Director Robinson?
Through your worship to the councillor, so the survey is is attachment 4 to your agenda package. The proposed lot that has the existing house is going to be 0.506 hectares, and the new lot is going to be 0.2 hectares. So it meets the zoning requirements for the minimum lot size.
And if I can just ask one more question.
Yeah, go ahead, yeah.
Is that 0.25 contiguous with the current area of lots in that neighborhood?
Through your worship to the councillor, as Councillor Savage correctly noted, there's a number of different sizes of lots. There's several 0.2 hectare lots immediately to the south and to the southeast of this parcel. So I would say that the lot size is generally in keeping with the character of that area.
Thank you.
All right. I have a question, but I'll save it for after because it's around servicing, and it's more out of curiosity than anything, but I'll save it for follow-up call. Anything further from council? Hearing nothing, I will move to call in question. All those in favor and opposed, that's carried unanimously. All right, so that takes us on to item 8C, so with MTI, or sorry, we're gonna get Councillor Jones back. Yeah. All right, so we're on to items 8C, so it's the MTI amendment bylaw for the tree bylaw. So Director Robinson, is there anything else to add?
No, your worship, just to say that when in the discussion around updating the tree bylaw, which I know passed on consent this evening, there was also recommended legal advice that the tree bylaw should be included in the MTI bylaw to give enforcement officers like myself the ability to write tickets to enforce the tree bylaw. So that's what's before you tonight is a schedule update to the MTI bylaw to add the tree bylaw as amended to the schedule. Essentially, we need to have the different bylaws listed in the MTI bylaw in order to write tickets for offenses to those bylaws. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, great. Well, let's get to first reading on the floor, and then we'll go into questions. With second reading, if that's okay with council. Okay, so I'll get the first one on there. District of Lantzville Municipal Ticket Information Bylaw number 100/2012 Amendment Schedule Update Bylaw number 438/2026 be given first reading. Is there a seconder? Second by Councillor Jones. I'll move to call in question. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. That District of Lantzville Municipal Ticket Information Bylaw number 100/2012 Amendment Schedule Update Bylaw number 438/2026 be given second reading. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Jones. And then for discussion, Councillor Jones, if you wish.
Yes, through the chair to Director Robinson, thank you for your work on this. I have a couple of questions. The first one is about the relationship between the tree bylaw that we had legal draw up 3-4 years ago now, in which this council asked that there be strong penalties for violation of the bylaw, and those numbers were considerably higher than the MTI ticket numbers. So can you speak to the relationship? Is the MTI ticketing just part of the penalty, and what's in the tree bylaw is another aspect to it with another fee attached, or how do they relate?
Through your worship to the councillor, happy to kind of go over contraventions and penalties. It's section 6 of the tree bylaw. It gives us the ability to lay a charge under the Offence Act, which is not related to the MTI bylaw. So under the Offence Act, a bylaw officer, a police officer, whoever is enabled under the bylaw can lay a charge and basically take the person to court, and then a judge determines the fine.
Thank you. So that process then, to initiate that process, is that solely at the discretion of staff, approval officer, council? How is that initiated? The reason I am asking is that the MTI ticket amount is not a penalty which it would deter anybody from cutting trees. It's, I believe, $500 for a tree. If it's a tree in a tree management plan, it's $2,000, but at the moment, the tree management plan doesn't need to be submitted till time of subdivision, so by that time, probably they will have taken the trees they want at $500. Yes, if you could speak to how the enforcement of a larger penalty that might actually make this bylaw effective would take place, that would be great. Thank you.
Through your worship to the councillor, so laying a charge under the Offence Act needs to be done by a peace officer, so that would be done by either a bylaw enforcement officer or a police officer. I will note under section 6, it relates to the different penalties or fines that are available in enforcing the bylaw. So subsection B, so 6B relates to laying a charge under the Offence Act. Option 6C relates to the fines that can be issued under a municipal ticket information bylaw, the maximum of which is $3,000. So the very max that we could put in the MTI schedule would be $3,000 because it comes from the source bylaw, which is the tree bylaw, which indicates a $3,000 penalty.
Thank you. So my next question, you probably figured out, is can we change these amounts that have been put in, maybe just as placeholders for us tonight? And can council have a discussion about the penalty? Because right now, the tree is a lot more valuable, so much more valuable than the $500 penalty. Just cut the tree and make the money off the tree.
Through your worship to the councillor, I don't have the lawyer with me tonight. However, I would say that the maximum amount that you could raise the ticket for cutting down a tree would be $3,000. So it's $500 right now. That's kind of what was drafted. If you wanted to raise that to $3,000, there is this authority in the tree bylaw to do so. I would read council as having that authority if you wish to have that discussion.
And I'm sure if we did that and you had legal advice otherwise, it would come back to us for correction. So I'll hear from other councillors as to how they might like to handle this. Thank you.
Additional speakers? Okay, hearing nothing, I will move then to call in a question on second reading. Or unless you have a follow-up or you want to speak now, Councillor Savage, go ahead.
Yes, well, just to get that verified, so through Chair to Director Robinson, so you're recommending we just go with the 500, then get legal advice if we want to amend it in the future?
That would be my advice, councillor. However, if council does want to increase it to 3,000 would be the maximum upset of that fine amount, and then have it reviewed with legal just to confirm that later. You could also do it that way.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, well, for me, I wasn't really prepared to compare what other municipalities are doing. I'll wait to see if anyone else is prepared to make an amendment, but for me, it's, I still think that's a fair amount. It adds up, so 20 trees, that's $10,000. That's quite a bit, so, but if anyone wants to increase it to make the amendment, and I'll consider it.
Councillor Jones?
Yes, my point, Councillor Savage, was that you make money when you cut the tree and sell the tree. And that money will be way more than $500. These trees we've seen, for example, where you've got Douglas firs that are, say, 18 inches in diameter. Cutting of a tall Douglas fir of that amount is going to make considerably more money for the person who cut it than the $500 penalty. So I think to deter a developer from cutting the trees, the penalty needs to be something that they feel it's probably never going to be as high as what they make from the trees, but it might be enough to pause. So that is why I'm recommending that tonight we put it up. If legal comes back that we can't, that's fine, but we are late in our term. This tree bylaw has been one of the most important things that we've done this term, and I would prefer that it was not delayed. It may never end up happening.
Additional speakers? Go ahead, Councillor Mandel.
Yeah, I'm happy to support it if you want to make that motion, Councillor Jones. I'm, yeah, happy to support an increased fee if that's what folks think is fair, and what the homework we will need to do is just to confirm that that's okay to do, but I'm okay with getting that down. And you're right, this was the very first thing we did on council. It's hard to believe it's 4 years later that we're kind of still tinkering as we go. So happy to support that, though.
I was just going to ask a question through the staff. So if we were to change the amount, that's going to cause delay, I'm assuming, Director Robinson?
Well, I would suggest the council has several options before you if you wish to consider a change in the amount of the fine, which would be in Appendix 7 of the amending bylaw. You could refer it back to staff to get legal opinion on increasing the fine. You could make the amendment to increase the fine and pass the bylaw with the amendment. Or you could decide that the $500 per tree is acceptable and just pass it as it is, and then pass a subsequent motion to ask for legal advice. So I would say that those would be council's 3 primary options before you tonight.
So I was just going to further comment on that then. You know, the one thing I don't know and is, you know, really how much trees are, you know, how much they can be sold for. And I think Councillor Savage made an excellent comment. You know, they cut down 20 trees. That's $10,000 under the, you know, under what's being proposed, and 20 trees on the back of a logging truck. I don't know if the, you know, whoever's selling them is going to get that in addition to, you know, the cost to harvest the trees and everything else that you have to factor in. You know, if it's about a business transaction and so forth. So, you know, the 500 may be already quite a deterrent from harvesting trees off of, you know, these, any of these lots that have trees on them still. So I think for the sake of brevity here, I think it's just, I'd recommend that we just pass it as is, and then if we want to go back and amend at a later date and have more information presented, because I really don't know, you know, what they're actually getting for these, you know, these trees, or I guess logs, and so on. I just know it's, yeah, it's not a great market for that stuff. So go ahead, Councillor Jones.
Yes, I've looked at quite a few tree bylaws and the penalties, and I would suggest that we, to be somewhat consistent with other municipalities, we go with $2,000. And I just note that this isn't stopping any developer development from cutting trees. It's just stopping them from cutting the trees prior to having the tree management plan. And one of the ideas for that, there were 2 behind it, as we know. One is that if you completely clear cut the land, you've got some drainage issues there that tend to dry out the land quickly. So maybe maybe best in today's world not to aggravate that situation. And the other reason for it is that it's always the hope that we'll get some green space with the development. And if the land has been clear cut prior to the development, then we're acquiring green space which has been clear cut. And it would be nice not to find ourselves in that situation. So I'll make an amendment, and if it passes, fine. If not, then it hopefully would be addressed later, but I'd be comfortable with the 2,000. So for now, and we can always go up or down from that in the future, and make an amendment, please, to change the numbers in the bylaw. Sorry, you have to give me the page to find that quickly. There's two of them. To change both of those numbers to $2,000. Page 248, I think, on the agenda is what I have written down. So if council wants to give me a sec and turn to page 248 themselves. Yeah, the amount of the fine is $500 for cutting down or permit the cutting down of a designated tree, and $3,000 for cutting down a tree which is protected under the tree management plan. So I'll make an amendment, please, to change the $500 to $2,000. It's column 3, page 248, appendix 7 of the tree protection and management bylaw.
Okay, before we get a seconder, I just want to go through back to staff. I just don't know if this is correct or not. It just doesn't, in terms of doing an amendment to the bylaw, are we going to, how would be the best way of doing it if this is how, we should be doing it in the first place? Because I'm hearing maybe conflicting advice.
Okay, just give us 1 second.
Sure.
So, Your Worship, Director Robinson and I agree that it is appropriate to amend the 5,000 to 2,000 per what Councillor Jones has
Or
suggested.
500 to 2,000.
Sorry, 500 to 2,000. So the amount that would be in Appendix 7 under column 3, that would be 2,000 per the amendment. And we could do that this evening and then give the bylaw the reading as amended.
Okay,
So we're good.
all right, just want to make sure. I didn't know if it needed to go back to a lawyer or what have you, but do we have a seconder? So seconder, Councillor Mandel, and then discussion. Go ahead, Councillor Jones, if you wish.
I don't have anything further, thank you.
Councillor Mandel.
No, I think the discussion covers it.
All right, anything else from council? So this is just to amend second reading. Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor and opposed, that's carried unanimously, and then we're second reading as amended. Anything further? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor and opposed, that's carried unanimously. So now we can go to third reading as amended. Someone prepared to make that motion? Okay, I'll just do it then. That District of Lantzville Municipal Ticket Information Bylaw number 100, 2012 amendment, schedule update as amended. Bylaw number 438, 2026 be given third reading. Second by Councillor Savage. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing nothing, I'll call the question. All those in favor, opposed, that is carried unanimously. That takes us on to item 9A. So there's no motion with this. I through the council, I did talk to Councillor Lerner about this in terms of UBCM meeting requests. And I think council knows that myself and Councillor Lerner will be attending UBCM in the fall. And when I talked to him, it was specifically about the library or Vancouver Island Regional Library meeting with Minister, I guess it's Bailey, I believe. Yeah, Bailey. So basically what this would be in relation to is, it's not necessarily funding, it's about or basically meeting with the minister to get an update on the formation of the advisory board or the provincial advisory board. So that would be made up of, you know, the VERL plus all the other library boards throughout the province. And this is about basically trying to get the funding models in place to properly fund libraries across the province. So that's the nature of the meeting that's being requested. We can put it in a motion that that we'd be requesting a meeting with Minister Bailey, who's the Minister of Housing and Municipal Affairs. And ultimately, the one thing that came out of this discussion with Councillor Lerner is that the library board as an entity cannot necessarily request, and I think it's just factual, is they cannot request minister meetings because they're not a member of UBCM. So it's only municipalities that can make the requests through the minister for UBCM, not various boards such as the Vancouver Island Library Board. So that's why it has to be done through a municipality. Last year, a couple, or I think they delivered a motion through the city of Nanaimo as Councillor Erin Hemmings she was the former chair for the Vancouver Island Real Estate Library Board. So anyways, that's basically it. I don't know if the council wants to discuss this further. Councillor Savage.
Yes, I believe it's Minister Boyle of the Minister of,
yes.
of Housing and Municipal Affairs. And there's two reasons I say that. One is I believe that's what Councillor Lerner suggested. The second is in the AVICC letter we recently got, it referred to Minister Boyle in terms of some library matters. So just for the record, so I'll certainly be supporting it.
Mr. Bailey's was in charge of finance a couple years ago, but yeah, that's correct. It is Christina Boyle. Anything further from council? Okay, so I'll just get a motion on the floor that that the district in Lantzville requests a meeting with the Minister of Housing and Municipal Affairs, Minister Boyle, to discuss the formation of the provincial advisory board for libraries. Second by Councillor Savage. And I got nothing to add to that. Councillor Savage, do you have any comments through the rest of the council? Okay. Actually, the only thing I'll add is since we will be meeting, hopefully they accept a meeting with us, and if they were, that's only going to take up maybe 7 or 8 minutes, and we'll have another 7 or 8 minutes to discuss other items. So I don't know if council has any other thoughts around, you know, Minister of Housing and Municipal Affairs that we would want to add as a discussion topic. So, Councillor Jones.
Could we have time to think about that and email in any thoughts, should we have them?
Yeah, sure. This is just more about transparency, right? You know, in terms of discussion around that. But you know, I'm just thinking out loud here. One thing could be housing targets. But Councillor Savage, go ahead.
Yes, through chair to staff, is there a motion we could do after we deal with this motion to authorize Mayor Swain and Councillor Lerner in the interim before UBCM to any other ministers they think of? Can they be authorized to request it? Or does it require a council motion?
Go ahead, Director Wells.
I would prefer to have a council motion about this, just so that there's
Yep.
clarity for us and what we refer to UBCM. Otherwise, I worry.
Yep, thank you. So I'll make that motion after we deal with this one, or I can amend this motion.
Well, I think the issue is we have a timeline to respond.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so if we're making specific minister requests,
Okay, I'll make a motion now, then amendment motion if I may.
do you want to amend the motion on the floor?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
And further that Mayor Swain, and further that council authorizes Mayor Swain and Councillor Lerner to request meetings with any other minister of their choice.
Is there a seconder to the amendment? Councillor Jones, and discussion on that. Go ahead, Councillor Savage, if you wish.
No, it's just that you could think of something else could come up in the interim. You two are going, so if you can think of anyone else you'd like to meet with, just feel free to, is my outlook on it.
Councillor Jones is seconder.
Nothing on that, but do we need to do something similar to authorize other topics to be discussed with Minister Boyle?
So the reason why I put it in the form of a motion is because staff will actually write to the minister's office formally requesting the meeting ahead of UBCM. And then we'll get a response whether or not they're gonna, grant us a meeting, and chances are it won't be directly with the minister herself. It'll be likely with her staff. But nonetheless, it's just a bit of a formal process in making the meeting requests. So if so the way the amendment's worded doesn't really help in that regard. Like, we want to notify the minister's offices that we are interested in having discussions with specific topics, because they don't like us to come in with just a blank slate. They also prepare on their end to deal with whatever issue we are bringing forward. So, Councillor Mandel?
Yeah, it does get a little confusing to me too, we're mixing sort of a topic and then an invitation to meet with other ministers. I think they're two separate things. So I think we should defeat the amendment and again, consider maybe some specific topics that might be more in alignment with what, and if you want to make that separate, a separate motion around meeting with more ministers, fine, but I don't think it works with this one.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Jones, and I've got myself again.
Yeah, I'm just taking myself back to the last time this happened, and my memory is that we had to not just submit, oh, we want to talk to Minister, fill in the blank, but that we had to write up the topic that we wanted to speak about. So these two can't be separated, was my understanding. Perhaps through the chair to Director Wells, you could clarify that.
Your worship, through to council, so there is a process that we have to follow to request the meetings with the minister. It's prescribed by UBCM. So there is material that we have to send in, and there's a process at their end to do this. So I would say that the more specific we can be in terms of what it is that council wants to meet about, then we can figure out which minister would be most appropriate to refer that topic to, if that helps.
Okay, I was just going to go next, and then, so my suggestion, I'd agree with Councillor Wendell, is just to vote down the amendment, and then we can do another amendment, which is just add the topic of, just to follow up on the fire smarting of the highways or MOT lands, because that would, I believe, fall within that minister's jurisdiction, and I know it's something that's also important to this council, and that would probably fill the airspace for that meeting. So, Councillor Jones?
Yes, through the chair, Director Wells, if you could just clarify the process on approving what is discussed with the minister. My understanding was council has to approve the topic. So I think what Councillor Savage was doing was trying to allow Mayor Swain and Councillor Lerner to determine the topic if they came up with some, and we haven't had time to meet and all look at it on council with this minister, Boyle, or with other ministers. But normally, it would have to be council, if I understand correctly, that approves the topic. Otherwise, you could have councillors going and talking about, making those decisions themselves, which wouldn't be the democratic process.
Your worship, through to council, I think it is important that there is alignment amongst council as far as what's going to be discussed. If council is comfortable authorizing you and Councillor Lerner to make those decisions on behalf of council, that's also in council's purview. So I don't like it myself as a member of staff because I would rather that council decide now what topics it wants to advance and have agreement on that, and not leave it up to other members of council to make those decisions on their own, because that may not work out the way council as a body would like it to.
Okay, Councillor Mandel, and I'm gonna call the question on the
Okay,
amendment.
so I think there's some confusion around what I meant, what my intention was by saying we should vote this down and then make it clear by just talking about the task rather than opening it up to other ministerial meetings. I want to do just that. I want to actually get into what specific topics rather, in this, with this motion, rather than focusing on other ministers to reach out to. So I'm trying to make it simpler for staff to take a package of our application around the library and then some other topic, and put that into our request to meet. And then if we want separately for Councillor Lerner and the mayor to meet with, or make an application for other topics, then we can do that too. But you're right, I think we do have to really narrow down the topics. So my point was, I think we need to not support, defeat this amendment, and then get back to just focusing on topic. Does that make sense? Is that where we're headed?
Okay, so I'm gonna call the question on the amendment. All those in favor and opposed, notice unanimously opposed, the amendment fails. And then, so we got the one topic already, which is, you know, basically the, you know, where's the province at forming the advisory board for, to deal with library funding. So that's one topic. And then the second topic I'm proposing, and this has come up in, with council, and I think council's united on this, which is basically the fire smarting of the MOT intersections in Lantzville. So that could be the other topic, and in all reality, and having done a number of these in the past, that's all the time we're gonna have anyways. And the only other comment I'll say is if we make, even if we're just making one request to a minister, rather than, you know, that we're likely to get that versus putting in 10 requests for 10 ministers, because they do look at the total number of asks, and every municipality out there is asking for a lot of minister time. So if we just put in a request for this, we're likely to get it. Knock on wood. Councillor Jones?
Yes, I'm just wondering about that. Do you have any further information, perhaps from Mayor Swain, perhaps from Chief Ruckus, on what fire smarting of these properties may entail from Chief Ruckus's perspective? He did talk about limbing up trees before. And does the province have a policy on fire smarting of land? Obviously, the best way to fire smart is just to cut down all the trees, so I would hope that that's not the outcome of the discussion. So where do you anticipate this might go?
Well, with any of these minister meetings, we would have briefing notes prepared ahead of time, you know, going into it. Normally, they're going to have their own notes, and there'll be some, I guess, staff will kind of flesh out a little bit more detail, you know, what the meeting topic will be about. So if we're going to include fire smarting, then they would likely work with the fire chief on certain things that are important to try and sort out at the ministerial level, so Lantzville could be more effective at implementing whatever we want to do. But I see staff had their hand up, or Director Robinson.
Through your worship, to the councillor, I've worked with Chief Ruckus on this issue, and our previous conversations with the ministry have been about a barrier about funding. For example, last year when there was an encampment behind the Welcome to Nanaimo sign, which is in Lantzville's boundary, there was funding available to fire smart that area, which involved just limbing the trees, the bottom 6 feet of all the trees, removing some of the invasive ground cover, for visibility, as well as to stop any kind of fires that were happening in there. So I think that's what the chief was mainly looking for at these other Mott intersection properties is if you limb up the trees, you stop that spread. If there is a fire on the forest floor, it limits its spread to the canopy. as well as it improves visibility for police officers when they're driving around and doing their patrols.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Director Robinson. That's exactly what I was wondering, what the plan would be and if there's funding for it. Hopefully, there still is.
Yeah, and again, this would be a follow-up to, our recent visit from Minister Brittany Anderson, right? So we discussed that. So again, it's just following up. And I know staff is working on this file as well, but, from a political level, it does help to apply some pressure, we'll say, to the provincial government to, get change happening on the ground here in Lantzville. So I'll just make the amendment motion that we add the topic of fire smarting MOT lands in Lantzville. Does that work through the staff? Okay. Is there a seconder to that? Second by Councillor Jones. Any additional discussion? Councillor Mundell?
Well, I don't disagree with that being an important topic, but I do wonder if there are other topics. I thought the discussion tonight was another good thing to bring to the minister. Not that they're not going to be aware of the water shortage in the province, but I think mindful development when considering and with the housing legislation to be considering the amount of strain and stress it puts on the aquifers in our communities. I also think that that's a really important topic. So I wish we had more time. I don't know if that's specific enough. I know that one's kind of overarching for all communities, maybe not specific so much to Lantzville, but I do think that it is important for us to get that point heard and across, and we heard that loud and clear tonight. So as much as, yes, I think this is an important piece as well, I do wonder whether that topic might be better or another option. So I don't know. I'd be interested.
If I may, I'll throw out an idea. What I suggest is we pass an amended motion on the floor as it is now. And then what I think you're referring to is a different ministry altogether. So that would be the Walrus or Ministry of Water Land Resource Stewardship. So we could do a separate meeting request for basically that would fall under like water security. And then we can flesh out that topic. And then, because we have a number of issues around that and well licensing and so forth. But I think that if we want to add another topic. Yeah, Councillor Mundell?
Yeah, I guess because I feel like the Ministry of Housing's role in the pressure, I think what that municipalities are feeling, I don't know, I guess I feel like this overlaps in that realm as well, but I understand where you're going with the watershed protection. And I'm sure they work together and speak together. I just wonder if it's an opportunity to have that conversation there as well. But
Yeah, I think, if we were going to take it up with, the Ministry of Municipal Affairs, then I would have to do more around funding with respect to infrastructure, and the pressure around housing and how that affects the increased demand on municipal infrastructure. So that would be the angle, I think, there. But again, when we're having these meetings, generally they're 15 minutes long. I think you can sometimes get a special meeting, which is 20, but that's, I think, when you're actually with the minister. And so I think we're going to be pressed for time, even with the two topics that we would have. But if we wanted to add another minister meeting, I would suggest going more down the route, Ministry of Water, Land, and Resource Stewardship. But that's just my thoughts. Councillor Jones?
Yes, so Councillor Mundell is a good point, and there may be other ways that we can find out or apply pressure to the province to have some recommendations or support for development so that they can be implement more environmentally responsible measures around water, cisterns, for example. We've had that discussion, so I won't go on there. So I'm all right with pursuing that another way. I think it's extremely important to do so. I am not comfortable going to the Minister of Water and whatever it was called, Mayor Swain. The reason is that that opens up a very large discussion on water, and I would want all of this council to sit down and talk and be in full agreement about exactly how we present our views and our asks to the minister. And that would require a whole meeting to do so, for sure.
Okay. All right, I think we're on the amendment, so unless there's anything further, and this is just to add the fire smarting. Okay, so I'll call the question on the amendment. All those in favor and opposed, that's carried unanimously. Back to the main motion as amended. Anything further? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor and opposed, that's carried unanimously. So, all right, I think we're done with this one, this topic. Okay. Moving on, so we have the public engagement report for Community Use Building B. Director Robinson, I don't know if there's anything for you to add to this?
No, sir, it's for information. The meeting was well attended, lots of thoughtful questions and comments.
Okay. So I'll just get the motion on the floor and then we can have discussion if that works.
As a point of order,
What's your
please.
point of order?
We had this exact report at our last meeting, and I believe accepted it. It was on the agenda, word for word.
Through to staff.
Your worship, I don't think it was discussed at the last meeting. I think the meeting ran out of time and then we had to bring it forward is my recollection, but
Okay,
I'll take a look.
We can receive it then, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'll just make the motion that the public feedback for Community Use Building B Heritage Church as presented in the July 8th, 2026 regular council meeting be received for information. Is there a seconder? Second by Councillor Savage. And then discussion on the report, if there's any. Okay, hearing or seeing nothing. Yeah, like for myself, I think there's an underlying theme within the feedback that's provided. I think there's a, general interest in the community to do some kind of preservation of the building. How that looks at the end of the day, who knows? And I'd say there's probably overwhelming support or not to turn it into a parking lot. So I know there's multiple options there, but nonetheless, no parking lot. But it seemed to be more of a theme around, is there a way of trying to preserve the building? So that was my take on it. I don't know if there's any other comments from council. Okay, hearing nothing, we'll move on. So we got the purchase of bins for Copley Trail. So this is my motion, so that council authorizes the purchase and installation of refuse bins at the 4 trailheads for the Copley Ridge Trail, Alds Road, Stone Road, Normerall Drive, and Lawrenson, sorry, got to say that correctly, Lawrenson Lane, and that further that funding will come from the one-time projects reserve fund. Is there a seconder to this? Okay, seeing no seconder, fails due to lack of seconder. Moving on, we have the hearing impaired accessibility equipment for council chamber. This is a motion that Councilor Lerner put on there. Is someone prepared to make this motion? Councilor Savage, go ahead.
That council refer to the Accessibility Advisory Committee for feedback, the idea, possibility of obtaining hearing impairment accessibility equipment for the District of Lantzville Council chambers for staff, council, and the public to use pending future grant availability over the next few years.
Okay, is there a seconder to this? Second by Councilor Mundell. Discussion. Councilor Savage is mover.
Yes, I think it's great that we've got another topic for the Accessibility Committee. They can look into this, and while this could be helpful to those with hearing, problems, the whole idea is to make everyone feel welcome at council meetings and public buildings and so on. And on the other hand, we got to get to certain people to speak up from at the microphone over there as well. So it's nice and enunciated and clear, but I'll certainly support it. I think it's a good idea to, and then we can get we're not deciding anything, then we'll get a recommendation from the committee.
Councillor Mandel's the seconder.
Sure, I think the committee would be happy to take this on, and Aria just has so much time to, you know, help and put her time and effort towards this. But no, in all seriousness, no, we would be happy to look into this. And look to see if there are grants available, because I think depending on what is recommended or what comes out of some of the research, it could be a simple solution that's quick and easy to install, but it also could be something more costly, so it may be worth exploring if there are accessibility grants for this particular use and topic. So look into that.
Okay, through to the rest of the council. Okay, for myself, yeah, I can totally support this motion. This is pretty self-explanatory, so I'll just leave it at that. Anything further from council? Okay, I'll move to call in question. All those in favor, opposed, that's carried unanimously. That takes us on to item 9E, so this is a referral to the Design Review Committee Memorial Plaques at Hellstone. Councillor Savage, if you wish.
That council directs staff to refer to the design committee the project of designing a display of memorial plaques along the most northern boundary of Huddlestone Park, as shown on the Schedule A map of the agenda, and further that the design and its estimated cost be presented to council for approval to be funded by the one-time projects reserve.
Okay, is there a seconder to this? Second by Councillor Jones. Councillor Savage, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. So this is the concept of memorial plaques is currently on our council priority list and has previously been approved by motion of council. It was basically just finding the place and et cetera. So this motion simply proposes a location and a vehicle to establish a design for the structures to hold the plaques. So we're making no final decision tonight. This is just referring this to the design committee and for them to comment on the location. They may either have a recommended location elsewhere or, and also to come up with a design for the structures to hold the plaques. And once this is done, the project can be costed. This will probably be in the 2027 budget. So it'll be some time from now, all this will be done. Then all this will be presented to council at the next term sometime. And this plaque presentation could be designed to take up as little space as just a fence, so it's not a space taking up project. And we brought up this concept before that it's, with all the memorial benches, there's quite a desire for memorial plaques, and this would be a real space saver, and we don't have a graveyard in Lantzville, so this would be a way to record our history, and also some of the pioneers, we could approve having their plaques there. So it's just one place where you can get a sense of history and so the cost, et cetera, and the size of the plaques and so on, this would all be covered by the design committee. So anyway, it's as simple as that. Thank you.
Councillor Jones is seconder.
Yes, so we've had memorial trees in Lantzville and memorial benches, and there's been considerable discussion over the years about the problems with both of those approaches. However, I think having some way of memorializing people is an important thing for us to have in the community. And as Councillor Savage says, we don't have a graveyard, so memorial plaques seem like an excellent way to go. Looking at all the options of where they might go, I think a park, obviously, just needs to be district property. I think Huddlestone Park is an excellent choice because it is the most visited park and it's the most available to people, so I totally support that. And beyond that, I think the design committee could take a look at where in Huddlestone would be most suitable. I think there's one idea has been mentioned of at the back of the park, the northern boundary. An advantage to that is there's no, shall we say, obstacles there. There aren't any nice trees right there that you would be, interfering with. But it is at the back of the park, so the design committee might consider that to be a disadvantage because it doesn't draw people there as much as other parts of the park. There's also that rhododendron garden that hopefully can be a little bit, shall we say, upgraded in the future. The removing of invasives, perhaps volunteers will be doing that sometime, and it's a very attractive rhododendron garden right in Huddlestone Park there that is between Costin Hall and the park that you go right through when you come down from the Costin Hall parking lot. So that may be an area that the design committee considers. I support the motion.
Okay, additional speakers on this? I guess I'll speak to it next. So I'm not opposed to the idea of memorial plaques, but I do recall like the robust discussion we had around memorial benches last meeting and so forth. And I thought this council had kind of resolved to look at, how we're going to be doing memorial programs into the future. And that has not happened yet. So to me, this feels like we're jumping the gun on moving forward with this process and not talking about, the whole entirety of memorial, whatever you want to call it, benches, trees, just the whole program. I think Councillor Savage, you made mention to a motion. I don't know which motion you're referring to. I don't know if it's there a meeting reference or about that we've approved plaques.
Do you want me to answer that?
Yeah, through to Councillor
Yeah,
Savage.
these were motions on record. I believe there was two of them, and both of them had suggested, one was to look into posts, and we approved that. The second was to have these plaques find a location at the waterfront park. So with the archaeological stuff down there, this is a third motion now to refer to the design committee to consider all these things. And so that seems the best route. And in answer to your memorial bench, that certainly doesn't preclude that. This is just an inexpensive way. This could be like 30 or 40 bucks for people to memorialize their people that have passed on. Whereas there's still the option, I still want to do a memorial bench program. We'll need benches like at the waterfront park and so on. So it doesn't preclude that at all. This is just one aspect of doing it, a local place where they're all together to, review our history. So, thank you.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Again, I just feel like this is kind of jumping process. We had a pretty robust discussion last meeting. I haven't watched the video back, but I do recall, I think one bench didn't even get approved or is referred back to staff. But nonetheless, there seemed to be some resistance to that, but now we have this. So my preference would be to look at revisiting the whole memorial program. And, in terms of putting them in Huddlestone Park, if that's kind of the direction council wants to go in, I can accept that. But I think a lot of residents in Lantzville, there's more of a connection with the ocean than with Huddlestone Park. So to me, if we're going to do some kind of memorial plaque program, perhaps there can be posts that could be installed at different beach road ends and so forth. That could be quite aesthetically pleasing. So anyways, I can't support the motion as it is. I just feel like it's jumping a process that, we as a council, I think last meeting where I think somewhat in agreement on, like we need to revisit the whole program in its entirety. But now we're going on this tangent and it's very focused as it's to one park with a specific idea. I don't think that's good process. So I'll leave it there. Any additional speakers? Go ahead, Councillor Mandel.
Yeah, I'm wondering if Councillor Savage would consider amending his motion to leaving out like the specific details, so maybe making it a little more broad, like designing a memorial program or memorial product. And then maybe, and consider within the committee where it might go, because the committee, as Mayor Swain, may also have different ideas around where the best location might be, and they might be great. There might be, you know, something in our new park, or in Beach Road ends or Copley Park. Like, there might be some really great idea that seems to be a good fit, or a better fit for certain reasons. I'd love to hear the community's input, and committees are a great way to get that input. So I wonder if, Councillor Savage would maybe consider amending this to be not so specific, and get a lot of that feedback from the committee. And then I'd feel much more comfortable with supporting it.
Councillor Jones.
Yes, I think Councillor Mandel has a good idea there, but I would just point out we have had considerable discussion over memorial trees and memorial benches, so I think moving forward, rather than revisiting that and discussion all over again, will help things get done, which is what I would like with this. So I will support whatever motion Councillor Savage has created now.
Yeah, I have myself next, and then Councillor Savage. So I think Councillor Mandel has put it very well. I think in a lot of ways it's a good idea if we to refer it back to, or to refer it to the committee to get ideas around that. Again, we have to have a program or some kind of policy developed that guides the hand of staff. Council's not going to be administering the program. Staff is going to be administering the program. So we have to develop something in a way that can be interpreted and then fairly administered across Lantzville's residents. So, this could open up a bunch of possibilities. Because like I said, I think, a lot of people in Lantzville have a real connection with the ocean, with the beaches, and maybe instead of going to benches, maybe that's where memorial posts go. And maybe the design can be as such that you can fit so many per post. Could be a very efficient use of space. But again, like, I'm not going to come up with a design. That's why we hire the consultant with the committee. They'll come up with the end design, but the input from the committee could be quite valuable. So again, I think Councillor Mandel is nailing it in terms of the recommendation. Okay, Councillor Savage.
Yes, I've got an amendment here. So after the phrase schedule a map of the agenda, to insert the words, and further that the design committee be directed to recommend other memorial items such as memorial benches, memorial trees, and memorial posts.
Is there a seconder to the amendment? Councillor Jones, and then for discussion, go ahead, Councillor Savage.
Yes, you've made good points. So this broadens it to include all items that might be considered memorial items, and it will recommend benches, trees, posts, the whole gamut there and then council will have input as well, obviously, on it. Thank you.
Okay, additional or Councillor Jones, you seconded, I believe, so go ahead.
I look forward to seeing the input of the committee on this, and as we know, committees simply make recommendations to council, so this will all come back to council with a broader, range of ideas for council to consider, and, after that, then that's when we get to the stage of, formality with bylaws or whatever is required to implement it.
Additional speakers, Councillor Mandel?
Yeah, and I wondered if Counselor Savage had considered the location too, if that were something that you think the committee could have input on as well. Did you add that to your amendment? Sorry, I might have, did I miss the?
That's
to the
implicit. I mentioned they'd be discussing locations as well. I can certainly add that to the, once we deal with this amendment, I can add that. That's a good point. I'll add locations to a second amendment if we approve this one.
Or
was
do we
input.
just strike Huddlestone Park or northern boundary? Anyway, I don't know what's procedural.
Okay, can we have staff read back the amendment? That's probably a good place to start, so we all know what was recorded.
And further that the design committee be directed to recommend other memorial items such as memorial benches, memorial trees, and memorial posts.
Well, that wasn't as part of the amendment, that was moved and seconded, so through the council, we can, you know, we're not gonna go two amendments deep, so we can, by unanimous consent, add the word location before the, and location and before the words memorial items. I think that works. If there's any objections. Okay, and Councilor Mandel, I think you, okay. Does council need that read back? Or maybe staff can just read it back as, with, yeah, the whole thing as amended.
That council directs staff to refer to the design committee the project of designing a display of memorial plaques along the most northern boundary of Huddlestone Park as shown on Schedule A map of the agenda, and further that the design committee be directed to recommend other locations and memorial items such as memorial benches, memorial trees, and memorial posts, and further that the design and its estimated cost be presented to council for approval to be funded by the council one-time projects reserve.
Okay, thank you. Additional questions, comments? Okay, I'll call the question on the amendment. All those in favor, opposed, that's carried unanimously. The main motion is amended. Anything further? Okay, hearing or seeing nothing, I'll call the question. All those in favor, opposed, that's carried unanimously. All right, so that disposes of 9E on to item 10A. So this June 16th Parks and Trails Select Committee, there's two motions. Councillor Jones.
Thank you. That the Parks and Trails Select Committee recommends that council authorize information to be published in the July 2026 edition of the Community Update as presented in the attached report from the Parks and Trails Select Committee.
Okay, is there a seconder? Seconder by Councillor Mandel, and then discussion.
Yes, this content for the community update is on page 293 of your agenda, and this is a summary of the walk that the licensees of Woodlot 1473 conducted back in January of this year, where about 40 residents from Lantzville attended this, and John Gregson and his brother Dave and the main, sorry, I don't know his title, Forester Eric, led the group of residents around the trails and explained what best practices were for the woodlot and what their plans were for the future. It was really well received, this tour. The weather wasn't the greatest, but it was somewhat cooperative. Lots of questions were answered, and we thought it would be nice to bring this to the attention of the whole community. Many people missed out, and they're very approachable, the licensees. They may do something similar in the future if there's a demand. If not, this at least will inform them.
Okay, additional speakers on this? Director Wells.
Your worship, just a slight amendment. The July 26th edition of the community update has long since already been issued, so we would have to do it for the August update is all.
Thank you. Could we please amend the motion to change the word July to August?
Okay, just by unanimous consent. Any objections? Okay, we'll consider that amended. Anything else or any additional comments? Yeah, for myself, yeah, this is great. I know there won't be any issue with the woodlot operators coming back and doing future engagement sessions. I worked directly with them and with respect to this specific engagement session, and it was a bit of a trial run, and it was very successful. So the intent is to continue to work with the woodlot operators to try and increase awareness around forestry practices and conservation and everything else. Yeah, I look forward to them, doing future tours. I know there's an appetite for it. But again, that one was kind of like the trial run, see how it went, and it was very widely, it was well attended and very well received, and yeah, it was overall success. So I think John and Dave, as well as the woodlot forester there, they'll gladly come back and do another one. So it's just a matter of asking. So, all right, I'll call the question on that. All those in favor and opposed, that's carried unanimously. Next one, Councillor Jones.
That the Parks and Trails Select Committee recommends that council authorize staff to send the attached thank you letter to Kevin Robillard, Geographic Information Systems Supervisor at the Regional District of Nanaimo, for his assistance to the committee in updating Map A for the Pathways, Parklands, and Recreation document attachment.
Okay, I'll second that. That's a pretty easy one. And then through to council discussion. Go ahead, Councillor Jones.
Yeah, I think this digitizing of maps requires quite a skill and a bit of work, and the new Map A 2026 version is absolutely amazing. I look forward to it going online so that members of the community can reference it along with the document. That's what's been done with the previous documents, so hopefully that will happen soon, but this is just a simple thank you letter that reads, the members of the Parks and Trails Select Committee would like to extend many thanks for the work you put into Map A 2026. The map had not been updated since 2010, and the 2026 version takes the mapping to a higher level. It looks fantastic. Thank you. And then it's signed by all on the committee.
All right. Any additional comments from council? Okay, hearing nothing, I will move to call in question. All those in favor and opposed, that's carried unanimously. Takes us on to new business. So we have 11A roadside trail remediation work fronting 7084 Winslow Road and 7092 Lantzville Road. So this is a motion that's being put on there by our CAO. I'll just get the motion on the floor that council approve construction of a concrete block retaining wall along the north edge of the raised gravel trail and to provide a cedar split rail fence or equivalent to help prevent accidental pedestrian falls. Is there a seconder? Okay, so a motion fails due to lack of seconder. Through to council, I'm going to call for section 131. Hold on, Councillor Jones, I got the floor. So I'm going to call for reconsideration as per section 131 of the community charter. So the motion is back in front of a council. The reason for this is I just want to comment on, there's liability issue here, and that's what I think it deserves to be discussed. So the motion is not seconded at this point, but again, I'm not going to read it out for a second time. It's in front of council. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Mundell. And then I will speak to it. So in the agenda, there's...
At what point can I have a point of information?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
What's your point of
Yeah,
information?
thank you very much. Through the chair to staff, I think we passed a motion at the last meeting asking for some further information from staff with respect to property boundaries and other options for trails other than just this one option we've been presented with. So I was surprised to see this motion. It seems to almost contradict something else that we've done previously.
Okay, I'll let staff respond to, in terms of, what Councillor Jones has just said. So staff, if you wish.
The information that staff have brought forward in this report is further to the motion that council passed at the last meeting, just asking for more staff information. So we tried to do both of those things at the last meeting. So there was the motion, and then underneath that was a staff recommendation. And council was concerned about having further research done on it. So I did bring it back, discuss it with our project manager, and what you're seeing here is the report that he has presented in follow-up. So if there's more information that council is looking for, then if we can get more clarity about that, then we can come back with further information.
Okay, so as the mover, I'll speak to it first, and then we can go from there. Yeah, so I brought this forward and had a motion attached to it. That's now since been replaced by staff's motion. No hard feelings there. I'm fine with it. It was the concern that was brought up that I wanted to have dealt with. And, you know, the original motion did say for that staff investigating report back, and I know that it created some confusion because last meeting, there was already information contained within the agenda package. My understanding of staff was just trying to provide information, you know, as part of the agenda to actually help facilitate the discussion. It's not the first time that's been done. But again, it did lead to some confusion around recommendations. But the one thing that, you know, has been identified and still stands is there's a significant source of liability there. You know, council never approved a final engineered drawing. It was, my understanding, it was a concept design, and it's not our job to, through the council, to approve drawings. Our job is to provide direction. Staff goes off and they do the appropriate or take the appropriate measures to complete the work. It's just that simple. As I included on my report on page 296, it was clearly outlined in that concept drawing. You know, the slope limits and needed to be verified through detailed design. We've since now clarified that never happened. And so forth. And again, you know, this isn't the first time we've contemplated doing some kind of retaining wall system to dealing with slopes. So, you know, prime two examples is the Alds Road Trail, and the second is the works slated for Dickinson Road. The staff report's pretty self-explanatory. What I think is being provided, and staff can clarify if I'm wrong here, is this is the lowest budget option available that will mitigate the liability or risk to the municipality. The municipality is who put this in, and it's the municipality that needs to fix it. And again, what we have in front of us is the most cost-effective way of doing it. So there are no cheaper options. Well, actually, that's not true. There's one cheaper option, and that's just simply removing the works that are already in place. That's the cheaper option. But I think council's interested in preserving the trail and having it done right. So I'll be supporting the motion. I most definitely don't want to carry this liability forward on behalf of our ratepayers, because any fall can easily turn into a six-figure lawsuit in a hurry. So I'll leave my remarks there. Seconder, and then if you wish, and then we can go to other speakers.
Yeah, so I'm not necessarily satisfied, I would say, with this particular option or motion, which was why I was reluctant to second it in the first place. I would prefer to see some other options. I understand maybe this is the cheapest, but I wonder if there are other, and I think, again, my recollection was that we were gonna get a few different options, not just one. So I guess I'm curious, like I don't know that I necessarily want to fully support this particular motion, or that maybe we amend it again to consider other alternative options. I do think I'm definitely all for doing something, I'm not by any means saying we shouldn't do anything with these, this trail in front of these properties. But I just don't necessarily think that a fence and, you know, the retaining wall or the, would be the best option per se. Maybe there's some other options. I wonder if leveling that area off with more dirt to make it level grade might be an option and might not be as expensive. And I also think about maybe the intrusiveness of a fence for the property owners. I would hope that they've been consulted in regards to that, because maybe they wouldn't appreciate the look of a post fence in their front yards. So I get that this is district property, but this does have an impact on them and their property values probably to some extent as well. So I'm struggling with how to proceed. I'd like to support the direction we're going in here, but I don't know that I can support this exact wording of this motion. I guess I would prefer to have other options and input from the homeowners before I fully support it.
Councillor Jones next.
Yes, I won't be supporting the motion. And I'm a little bit frustrated by this motion even coming to us tonight when we did clearly ask for other options, and we had a discussion about a couple of things that I think lead us to look at other ways to solve this situation. We had a discussion, first of all, there's been some inaccuracies. I see one of them hasn't been carried forward. At first, there was a claim that this path was on private property. It's not, it's on district property, but we did say that we would like the district and the landowners to look at the property and agree on where the property lines are, because there is a water servicing box, which is a couple feet away from the bottom of the path, even a few feet, and that is most likely on district property. So if that's confirmed, the implication is that there's more space to work with, which may offer up other solutions. The other thing is we had a report from our CET, Chris Pennington, and the first time this came to us, and that report hasn't been brought forward. In that report, he discussed the standards for a slope going off a pathway, his point being that this was too steep. And he mentioned what the standard is. It may well be that there's enough land there on district property to accommodate the standard that he referred to, but his report isn't here, so I would hope that staff will go back and take a look at that and again see if the land is available and if the standard can be reached, because the pathway could be regraded. Council did approve engineering designs. They were quite detailed. They talked about digging down about 10 inches, about putting in 200 millimeters or something of a certain grade of gravel, and on top of it, putting finer gravel to a certain depth. It would appear that the path was not constructed according to those plans, but I just wanted to make the correction that we did have engineering designs on this. This, I feel there could be much lower budget options for this, and because it's been, brought so forcefully to council, I am fine looking at it. I agree that it's not ideal and there's a problem there. I feel the liability angle has been overplayed. It is much safer to walk off the road than along the side of the road, so I will just reiterate the point that this path has solved what was a serious liability problem. Now, when we look at this path, we're forced to compare it to all the other things in Lantzville. There are numerous liability problems in Lantzville. So I think what we should do here, rather than play the liability card on this exclusively, is there should be some further, perhaps it's a report from staff, or perhaps it goes to a committee or to council, but we should be looking at the liability issues throughout Lantzville and coming to a decision as to whether we think they need to be addressed, and if so, in what order. Thank you.
Councillor Savage, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. The reason I didn't second this is I had a different solution for it, which I was going to make after this. However, we tried to address this the last meeting. I think there was some confusion over what we were referring. And it was clear, I think, from a number of us last time we wanted to look at other solutions and so on. So now we've got another letter from one of the owners, and there's mention of getting legal advice. So that really underlines to me, which I tried to do last meeting, that it's really important to consult with the owners to come up with a resolution, a satisfactory conclusion. I don't want to go ahead just with this because I don't know that would be satisfactory. Apparently, these two houses in question were not consulted originally when the path was put in. So I think that's step one, is to consult with them and make sure that some satisfactory solution is come up with after speaking with them. And the second is to look at other solutions, and there may be more economical solutions, but to look at other solutions. And then for staff to propose the source of funding. We don't have a source of funding here, so I want those three things, so I'll make a referral motion. So I move to refer this back to staff to A, determine if there are more economical solutions or other solutions. B, consult with the two homes involved to establish lot lines and consult with them about solutions and resolutions. C, have staff propose the source of funding.
Is there a seconder to the referral motion? Second by Councillor Mandel, and then Councillor Savage, if you wish to speak to it.
No, I've just said what I've said, but the key is to consult with the two houses. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Mandel.
No, nothing further. I think that covers it.
For myself, I'm fine with the referral motion. Again, I think there's been a few things said in this debate. I don't know if I necessarily agree with them. And the first is I'm not aware of any engineering. I've asked staff. I don't think there was any actual engineering on file with respect to this. So we had our former director of Public Works state to council what was going to be done, but in terms of being engineered, that's a separate issue altogether. So in terms of that characterization, I don't agree with it. With respect to the options, if council is interested in options, great. It's only going to get more expensive. I guess that's the easiest way of saying it. Because what is before us tonight, like I've already said, and we can confer with staff, is the cheapest available option, aside from ripping it out, which again, I don't think council has any interest in doing. In terms of, the referral motion, in the meantime, I don't know what staff's going to do to mitigate the risk there. Again, I am fully aware there are other, encroachments and this and that, and we had a writer write into us, or a resident write into us and highlighting that, and that, I understand that. And we've, council, not everybody on council was around when we surveyed Lantzville Road, and we issued encroachment agreements to basically everybody between Wiles Road and Huddlestone Road. And that's whether or not they wanted to enter into the encroachment agreement, but very well aware of encroachments. We've dealt with a few other encroachments, and slowly but surely, I don't think we've really done much this term, But slowly but surely, we will keep addressing encroachments. Nobody's going to get, public land for free. I think we've made that quite known. But and there are, people have chosen to put things in road right-of-ways and so on that should be removed. And, as those come up, they will be dealt with. So, but this is something that has been created through the district, and we have to deal with it. So, I do take exception to the word forceful. This isn't being done forcefully. This is being done responsibly. We are fiduciaries of the municipality. We have an obligation to mitigate any financial harm to this municipality, and to turn a blind eye to it and not do anything about it or slow walk it, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable. So to say that this is being, forced or done in a forceful manner, I take exception with that. Other than that, again, I'm curious, will staff be doing anything to mitigate the fall risk with respect to the trail in the meantime? Because this is now going to be delayed at least 6 weeks until it can come back to another council. Through to staff.
Your worship, through to council, I'll have to consult with the project manager and find out what can be done in order to mitigate liability while we do the further work that council has asked for, assuming it gets referred back.
Sure. Okay, thank you. We got Councillor Jones and then Councillor Mundell.
Yeah, so I can support the, was it an amendment? Referral. Thank you, the referral, for a few reasons. Knowing the property lines is very important because, as I mentioned, Chris Pennington did give the standard for the slope, and it would appear that there's many more feet district property, at least in front of the section west of Harper, which is currently lawn. So to my mind, if it were my property, I would simply widen the trail, compact it, put the fines on the top, the surface that I don't think appear to be there, but again, our engineer will have comment on that, and do something like put soil on the regraded slope, which is now to a standard, and let the grass grow there, and that will solve the problem of stones rolling around. So I hope that will be something that is considered. Maybe there's something worthwhile there, maybe not, but I'd like it to be looked at. And then the other thing is, in front of the other property owner, there is a hedge, and the hedges would appear, again, it can be confirmed by staff, to be on district property. And that property owner might not want that hedge to come down. So conferring with the property owners is very important. It may need to be a solution that doesn't involve removing the hedge if it's of value to that property owner. So I'm not saying that we shouldn't solve this problem. I'm saying we should. But I would like that information, which we had earlier, revisited, and the information that is asked for in the referral looked at and put into a report back to council. Thank you.
Councillor Mundell.
Yeah, I mean, I go back to and staying firm with my statement that I will not support any movement without input from the property owners. So regardless of which direction this goes, I really do feel like we need to include them in the conversation. But if it's something that needs to be dealt with 100% right now, then my suggestion is, from my perspective, is we get rid of the rock and we just put dirt back in there, and then look at this option, because I think the rubble and runoff from the rock seems to be the biggest issue, and the fact that it's created a bit of that ledge. And I don't know, I would almost rather it go back to being a dirt path. And having, because I mean, let's face it, the majority of Lantzville sidewalks are dirt paths along along the side of the road. So if something needs to be done to mitigate risk right now, that is what I would be willing to support, is just getting it back to being a dirt path. Again, I'm not going to support putting a fence up or retaining walls or anything without input from these property owners that are, again, gonna have to look at it and gonna have to maybe potentially sell their property with that attached to it.
Okay, anything further? Yeah, and I would agree, like, you know, I think the misstep here was no consultation with the property owners in the first place, so if anything comes out of this, it's a bit of a process. You know, there are two parts of this, though. You know, when we build trails, we are building them for the community and so on, and they will go in front of people's properties, but I think we need to be extremely respectful and mindful of the impact on people's properties when we do put in trails and so on. And you know, again, I know we're trying to operate for the betterment in the betterment of everybody's you know, experiences in Lantzville. But again, it's got to look at it from a couple different angles. Anyways, I'll move to calling the question then on the referral motion. All those in favor and opposed? That's carried unanimously. Okay. All right, moving on. Okay, so we have the 11B, this is the Rays Island pedestrian crossing remediation work at 7232 Lantzville Road and Tweed Hope Road. So CO has provided the following motion per the recommendation of her staff, that council authorized staff to retain a traffic engineering consultant to address the issues with the Rays Concrete Island pedestrian crossing at 7232 Lantzville Road and Tweed Hope Road, as per the staff report presented on July 22nd, 2026. Is there a seconder? Second by Councillor Savage. To me, this is very straightforward. Essentially, for my view on this, very similar to the path. I'm not going to get into the how. Just went to a very expensive conference that George Cuff presenting, and you know, our function as councillors is not to talk about the how. Our function is to talk about the what and the why. So I'm not worried about you know, what the end result's going to look like, as long as it's just done right. So that's where I stand on this, and part of that is having the engineering traffic consultant tell us what needs to happen to remediate this island. Councillor Savage is seconder.
Yes, this is an interesting, there's some lessons in here, but this is well over a year, as the path is. Well over a year. It's a year and a couple of months, few months, I think now, that this was done. And at the time, there was a lot of, more than a few residents that mentioned you couldn't turn right properly off Tweed Hope from the island, and it was sheer coincidence that shortly after the island was put in, that we had an accident on the highway, and there was hours of traffic that were diverted through Trombley and so on. I don't know, forget why they didn't come along Lantzville Road, and they all had to turn right at this traffic island. So it was quite an issue then. People were saying they were going to you know, send things into the district to let them know about it. And I just assumed they had. It was on my list of things to bring up. We've had such loaded agendas the past year that, so I'm glad it's up here now. And it really should be fixed. I tested it myself not too long ago to see what it was like, and I've always had fairly big cars. This is a little car I have now, and it could neither turn right without the front left fender going into the other lane. So anyway, I've just got a short amendment here to make because it doesn't mention cost. And I just want to make sure the cost of this, what the proposed solution is, comes back to council. So I'll just make the motion, the amendment at the end of the motion, and to present an estimated cost for council approval.
Is there a seconder to the amendment? Okay, second by Councillor Mundell. And then speaking to the amendment, Councillor Savage.
Yes, and through chair to staff, was this, I couldn't quite understand the wording of the motion, but was this intended to come back to council for funding source and approval?
That's a good question. It
Yeah,
doesn't
well, that's
specify it
fine.
in the
If you don't know,
motion,
that's
so.
fine. Yeah,
Yeah,
thank
so,
you. Yeah.
sorry, one of the questions that Council, or Director Robinson mentioned too is, so this is the cost for the traffic engineering consultant only. So you want to hear about that first, and you also want the total cost of the recommended repairs or changes to the island itself. So there's two pieces.
Oh, I see. Okay, well,
Yeah.
that's fine. You were already intending to do it. Thanks for that, but I'll still make the amendment. I just
Okay.
want to make sure it comes back to council for approval, because who knows what they're going to say. So hopefully it won't be that much. It could be just a cement saw cutting off a trail for cars. I just don't know what they're going to do, so. Okay.
Okay, Councillor Mundell is the seconder on the amendment.
Nothing to add.
Yeah, there, Councillor Jones, go ahead.
Yes, I just wonder if it is the intention to ask again if there are options and the cost of the options, because there may be more than one solution to this. It's district property on the east side of the road, for example, so maybe the solution is to widen the road by 2 feet. I don't know, and then you may have the space. I have no idea, but I don't want the motion to limit us to one solution at a certain cost without knowing if there are other options that may be more desirable as well as less expensive, who knows? It just says to address the issues. It doesn't even say in the motion to come up with recommendations. So do we need to add that, I guess, through the chair to Director Wells? Does that need to be clarified?
What I think is important is that whatever wording council lands on is clear for council. So you have to be satisfied that you're going to get what you want out of the motion. And what I'm hearing is definitely you want to know what the total cost of this is going to be. So that's going to include the cost of hiring the consultant first. And then you want the consultant to give you options, which also need to be costed out and then presented back.
Thank you. That's
So
what
is
I'm
that-
trying to make sure is understood.
Okay, so that is not in the amendment as it's worded
Yeah.
right now. So you'd have to change your amendment to make that clear.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll speak to myself, to the amendment, and it'll kind of tie into the rest of the motion. For myself, ultimately, it's up to the consultant to provide the recommendation, and it could be recommendations. I think we always have to remember, they're trying to work in the best interest of the municipality, and that's a number of things. That's gonna be safety, it's gonna be costs, it's gonna be timeliness. There's a bunch of factors that play into it. If council wants them to come back with 2 or 3 options, then we can have that in a motion and it's stated, but I don't know, like, what is that even based on? Like, asking for additional options? So I think best to leave it to the professionals. If it comes back with a unsatisfactory result to council, council's not pleased with the information that's coming back, then council can then refer it back at that point. But I think we have to, leave the how this is gonna get done to the consultant and staff. It's just that simple. Yeah, anyways, I'll just leave it there. Councillor Jones?
That's exactly my intention, that we don't restrict it by saying to come back with the recommendation, singular, that we make it clear that if there's more than one recommendation that this consultant has, we would like to hear it. So that was my intention in when I spoke.
Okay, so can we have the amendment read back, please? And just so I'm perfectly clear before I respond.
That council authorized staff to retain a traffic engineering consultant to address the issues with the raised Country Island pedestrian crossing at 7232 Lantzville Road and Tweed Hope Road as per the staff report presented on July 22nd, 2026, and to present an estimated cost for council approval.
Yeah, okay, so, that's what I thought it was. So I guess I'll speak to it after we deal with the amendment. Is there anything further on the amendment, which is? Okay, I'll call the question on that. All those in favor and opposed? That's carried unanimously, and then we're back to the motion as amended. So I don't see this as just limiting it to one solution. It just says to address the issues. So they may come back with a suite of options that we can contemplate as a council. They may only come back with one option, but I'm satisfied with that. I don't know if that satisfies the rest of the council, but I think the door is wide open. Councillor Jones?
Yes, just through the chair of staff, so long as that's the understanding when it goes to the person hired as a consultant, I'm totally fine with it. As the motion reads, it does sound like we're just asking for one option and the cost of it. So I leave it with staff to see if the motion needs to be further amended or if it's understood that he has license to look at other things if he chooses. Or she.
Thank you. I think it is, sorry, your worship, through you to council. I think it is worded sufficiently so that a consultant is, any consultant, when they look at a problem, is going to examine options. That's just part of what you do when you're a consultant. So I don't think we have to specify that further. What I do want to be clear about, though, is the money that we have to spend for the consultant. Are staff authorized to go forward with what that cost is without coming back to council or not?
Well, I think through to you, Director Wells, I think the CEO has spending authority. Is it up to 10,000 for?
So yes, there is. It's just sometimes council is very particular about how much it wants to spend on these things and sometimes not. So again, I'm just trying to make sure that we're clear in this discussion about what authorizations are being provided for staff.
So for myself, like I'm comfortable with how it is, and ultimately this is going to come out of the roads infrastructure reserve. That's where the money comes from. But unless council wants to have it come from somewhere else, Councillor Jones.
Yeah, through the chair to staff, do you have an idea what this would cost? 10,000 seems, to me, it seems very high, but I really don't know. So can you provide a rough estimate?
Just as a point of clarification, the CEO has authorization up to 10,000.
I
It wouldn't be,
understand
okay,
that.
just making sure.
Yeah.
Because the way you said it.
Through your worship to the councillor, I would be surprised if the engineering work exceeded $4,000.
Thank you. Sounds perfect.
All right, unless there's anything further, I'm going to call the question as amended. Okay, all those in favor and opposed, that's carried unanimously. That takes us on to the next item, which is 11C. So this has to do with allocation of growing community funds reserve balance. I'll leave out the whereases. Therefore, be it resolved that council directs staff to allocate remaining uncommitted monies from the growing community fund exclusively towards eligible high priority major capital projects such as the Dickinson Road project. And be it further resolved that staff offset and reduce the authorized debt borrowing amounts for these specific projects by the exact total of the growing community fund allocation. If there's a seconder. Okay, due to lack of seconder, this one also fails, so we'll move to 11D, which is the future allocation of monies recovered from 7099 Lantzville Road /6852 Wiles Road. Again, I'll leave out the whereases, and therefore be it resolved that council directs staff to establish a dedicated segregated account for all future monies recovered or received from 7099 Lantzville Road and 6852 Wiles Road, and be it further resolved that 100% of these recovered monies be explicitly earmarked and allocated to fund the Dickinson Road repaving project. If there's a seconder. All right, due to lack of seconder, that also fails. Moving on, I guess we'll deal with the two motions that were not included on the agenda, so we can start with, oh, actually, sorry, Councillor Savage, you withdrew your one, that's right. All right. Bear with me here, where did I put? Ah, there it is. So this has to do with the sheet that was handed out. The motion is C6 or C26-129. This is from March 26th or March 25th of the 2026. And the motions was referred on the floor. And the motion, just to read it out, that council directs staff to book the upstairs Legion or Cosson Hall if that is not available for April 11th or 12th, 2026, or another date, depending on council's availability, in order for council to have a town hall meeting with residents in the Water Winds local service area to discuss the WINS grant options, including a possible petition against process. So that's what was referred from that meeting, and we never dealt with it. So,
Point of information. I recall that we had this discussion and that we had a large contingent of group people from the WINS attending that night, and we talked about having a town hall, and we voted it down. So I'm very confused about when it says carried. I'm confused because my recollection is that evening, we just had that discussion. There was a large group here that said, we've already gone down this path, we've had this conversation, we've done the vote, we don't want a town hall.
yeah.
And I recall voting against having a town hall. So I don't know where this is coming from.
Okay, so I'll answer that. So where it's
Okay.
coming from is like with the motion that's there, that motion was never acted on or completed. So that motion that never came back following the April 22nd. Sorry, never came back. Following when essentially the G property application was voted down. So, it's just, does council want to, in the future, schedule a town hall meeting for residents with respect to the WINS local water area service? Because, and I'll let staff speak to this, just because I know there's some information that's in camera about this, but this is still ongoing. There's a lot of residents in the community that are unaware that, what is going on, or the status of the grant and the status of water expansion. So maybe I'll get staff to speak.
Point of order?
What's your point of order?
What are the regulations on this? I thought you couldn't even refer to the topic that's in camera when you're talking about it. I'm just questioning whether that was appropriate to say what you just said.
Well, it's totally appropriate.
Procedurally, you've referred to the topic on an in-camera item. Through to Director Wells, is that permitted? You've divulged the topic.
So there are different aspects to this topic. Some of them are public, such as that we are speaking to the province about how we can use the grant. So that part is out in the public, and that is what we have been discussing. So the content of those discussions, though, are not able to be discussed in public because nothing has been determined. So what we're trying to do right now is keep that dialogue going with the province so we can get some options for utilizing that grant money. That's the mission right now, and that part is public, and I think that's what the mayor is referring to here. I think some of the confusion from Councillor Mundell's point of view might be that there were two motions on March 25th related to this, and there was one that was defeated, which was with regards to some funding issues that were associated to it. So it was a very long motion. And it says, moved and seconded that council directs staff to proceed with initiating the petition against process for the construction of a water service in the WINS, subject to the following conditions being confirmed. And then there were a number of conditions outlined, but that motion got defeated. And then this one that you're seeing now was a second separate motion that referred it to be discussed after the G property public hearing was done on April 22nd. And then it just never ended up coming back to council until now. So there were two of them. And I think council did have a lot of discussion, but oftentimes I find that council remembers discussion that happened and thinks that there was actually a motion that went along with it, and sometimes there just wasn't. So in this case, when I'm looking at the motions from the meeting, this one was referred, and that was all that happened.
Counselor Savage?
Yes, for the sake of brevity, I would move that this motion be postponed indefinitely. And that will give us the option to bring it back whenever we want, if we choose to, if we feel we might have something to tell residents, to discuss with residents. So I think that's the best way to solve it. It's just postpone it indefinitely. We can bring back this motion or a similar one anytime we want. So that's what I would suggest.
Okay, Counselor, Counselor Savage is making a postponement motion. Second by Counselor Jones, and then discussion. Counselor Jones?
Yes, that makes sense to me. It's really perplexed as to why we would entertain this motion right now, given what we have heard. We did have discussion about it before. We have nothing further to present to, so it's premature. So I like this idea of postpone indefinitely. If there is a time when this is to be considered, we can bring it back or something similar.
Okay, for myself, I won't be supporting the postponement indefinitely. To me, it's, we've heard from residents in the past about having town hall meetings and having information presented to them and so forth. I would agree with the comments about it is premature. There isn't much information that can be shared at this point with the public outside of, you know, the grant is still there. And staff is working with the ministry and with respect to what can we do. So, but at some point, and I would say probably, and this is probably something that's going to be later in the fall anyways, when there is more information to be shared, I think a town hall should be done. So, you know, I'd be more in support of referring this motion back to staff because if a town hall meeting occurs, a town hall meeting isn't between council and the public. A town hall meeting is between staff and its consultants and the public. It is a forum to present information, do Q&A, and not have it politicized. So ultimately, my preference would be to refer it back to staff to a date later in the fall, whether it's October, November, whatever. And at that point, when the time is right, to bring forward, you know, or to actually go ahead with a town hall. So, anyways, Councillor Mandel?
Yeah, I mean, I remember strongly where I stood on this back when this discussion happened in March, and I'm reluctant to support it at all. However, I will support the indefinite postponement because without concrete information to hold a town hall with, I don't want to set any particular date on it because in the fall there might not be anything to share. Hopefully there's news, but or something to report, but that might not happen. So I don't want the expectation for staff to be like, oh, well, this is coming up, so I have to address it. I think I will support the postponement, but again, I want to be very clear on what we're going to be having a town hall for, because again, I heard loud and clear that you know, the folks up there had their say around this topic. So unless there's something new or significantly different, then I don't know that this is necessarily, I mean, it could be good for the whole community to have conversation and input on this town hall, but it definitely will be on most important to reach the people who it directly impacts. So anyway, I'm a little bit of two minds here, but I will support this based on Councillor Savage's language.
Okay, Councillor Jones? Okay, yeah, again, I have a hard time supporting, postpone indefinitely, but, so I won't be supporting that. But again, I hear what council's saying, and the reality is, and I know what the residents up there have said, and this is just being about transparent to them, like that, yes, we're still working on it, has not gone away. And I think there are residents that may think that this is totally dead in the water and has gone away. So, so if a resident were to actually phone the district, they're gonna be told that, yes, it is, being currently worked on. It's an active file. And and council has authorized basically the work on this. So that's why it's active. It's just that simple. So anyways, I'll leave it there. I'll move then to calling the question. All those in favor and opposed, no Mayor Swain's opposed, it carries. All right. At this point, any late items to be introduced? Any notices of motion? Nobody remotely registered this evening for public clarification? And at this point, I'll make the motion to close the meeting pursuant to section 91D and K of the Community Charter. Is there a seconder? Second by Councillor Savage. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. And noting time is 9:15, maybe 2-minute recess. Or 3-minute, 9:17 we'll resume.